What happens when a white Afrikaner politician from the Freedom Front Plus starts getting support from black South Africans? I know, sounds impossible, right? But here's the thing that's got everyone talking. Pieter Groenewald, a man who leads a party many people associate with Afrikaner interests, is suddenly appearing in photos with black South Africans wearing his party colors. Some are even saying they'd vote for him over the ANC. Before we get into this wild story, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. We actually reply to every single comment because we want to know what you think about this. Let's start with the basics. Pieter Groenewald is the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, or VF Plus. He's been in politics for decades, and his party has always been pretty clear about their focus on Afrikaner rights and minority representation. The party got just over 2% of the vote in the last general election, not exactly massive numbers. Groenewald himself is known for speaking Afrikaans in Parliament, even when everyone else switches to English. He's defended monuments, pushed for farm security, and generally stayed in his lane representing a specific community. So how did we get from there to black South Africans saying they'd support him for president? That's where things get interesting. It started showing up on social media around late 2024 and early 2025. Pictures of Groenewald at community events in townships, videos of him speaking at gatherings where he's the only white person in the room. One video that went viral showed him at what looked like a community meeting in Soweto, and people were actually listening to him, not heckling, not protesting, but genuinely listening. The comments section on these posts was split down the middle. Half the people were shocked, calling it staged or saying these were paid actors. The other half were defending it, saying people are tired of the ANC and they don't care what color the person is anymore, they just want someone who delivers. Some users claimed they recognized people in the videos as real community members, not actors. But of course, nobody could verify that completely. According to reports from community journalists and local news outlets, something shifted after the May 2024 elections. The ANC lost its majority for the first time since 1994. People were angry. Service delivery was still a mess in many areas. Electricity was unreliable. Water shortages continued. The Government of National Unity formed, but many South Africans felt like it was just more of the same politicians making deals. Around this time, Groenewald reportedly started doing something different. Instead of just talking to traditional VF Plus supporters, he started accepting invitations to speak at community meetings in areas where his party never campaigned before. One community leader in Alexandra, who didn't want to be named, allegedly told a local radio station that Groenewald came to their area and listened more than he talked. He asked about their specific problems. He didn't make big promises, but he explained what the VF Plus actually stands for without all the political jargon. The leader said people appreciated that he treated them like adults who could make their own decisions. Now, we can't confirm every detail of these meetings, but the fact that they're being discussed at all is significant. Here's what makes this even more complicated. The VF Plus has some policies that actually align with what many South Africans say they want, regardless of race. They've been vocal about fighting corruption. They want tougher crime laws and better policing. They push for job creation and economic growth. These aren't exactly controversial positions. Where they differ are on things like language rights, minority protections, and their opposition to certain land reform approaches. But some black South Africans are reportedly saying they're willing to overlook those differences if it means getting a government that actually works. One person interviewed in a podcast said something like, "I don't agree with everything they say, but at least I know what they stand for. At least I know they're not stealing." That kind of sentiment is what's driving this unexpected support. It's not that people suddenly love the VF Plus ideology, it's that they're so frustrated with the current situation that they're willing to consider alternatives they never would have before. Of course, not everyone is buying this narrative. Political analysts have pointed out that the VF Plus still gets most of its votes from white Afrikaners, and that's unlikely to change dramatically. Some critics say this whole thing is being blown out of proportion by social media and that the actual number of black South Africans supporting Groenewald is tiny. Others suggest it's a publicity stunt designed to make the VF Plus seem more inclusive than it really is. There are whispers, and I want to be clear, these are just rumors, that some of these community appearances were coordinated with specific groups who were already sympathetic to the party's message. Nobody's proven that, but the speculation is out there. The EFF and ANC supporters have been particularly harsh, calling anyone who supports Groenewald a sellout or saying they've forgotten the struggles of the past. One video showed a heated argument at a taxi rank where someone wearing VF Plus colors was confronted by other commuters. It got tense, but thankfully didn't turn violent. These kinds of confrontations show just how divisive this topic is. Whether you believe the hype or not, something is shifting in South African politics. The old racial voting patterns are showing cracks. Younger voters especially seem more willing to vote based on performance rather than historical loyalty. The 2024 elections proved that South Africans are willing to punish parties that don't deliver, even parties with deep liberation credentials. Groenewald and the VF Plus might be benefiting from that shift, even if it's just in small pockets. Some political scientists are saying this could be the beginning of a realignment where voters care more about competence than identity. Others say it's just a temporary reaction to ANC failures, and when things stabilize, people will return to traditional voting patterns. The truth is, probably somewhere in between. What we do know is that conversations that seemed impossible 5 years ago are happening now. People are at least willing to listen to politicians they never would have considered before. Here's where things get really interesting. The local government elections are coming up in 2026. These are often seen as a test for national politics. If the VF Plus actually makes gains in areas where they've never had support before, it would be a huge story. Some political insiders are reportedly saying that Groenewald is positioning himself not necessarily to win the presidency, but to become a kingmaker in future coalition negotiations. If the VF Plus can prove they have support beyond their traditional base, they become much more valuable as a coalition partner. That's politics, though. Everything has layers. What looks like community outreach might also be strategic positioning for power deals down the line. So, what do you think? Is Peter Groenewald actually gaining real support from black South Africans, or is this all just clever political theatre? Would you ever consider voting for a party you never thought you'd support if they promised to fix the basics like electricity, water, and safety? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you, especially if you're from South Africa. And if you found this video interesting, hit that subscribe button because we're covering all the political stories that have people talking. We'll see you in the next one.